Alan Wake 2 and Hieronymus Bosch's brutal orchestra, in many ways, could not be more different. One is a large-scale and expensive undertaking by Remedy Entertainment spanning well over a decade, while the other is a passion project by developer Talia Bobmer, known for her previous works, Perfect Vermin and Swallow the Sea. One is a survival horror game with roots in Resident Evil and Silent Hill. The other, a turn-based roguelike styled after games like The Binding of Isaac and Lisa the Painful. One has received multiple prestigious awards, and the other has received criminally little attention. Despite these vast differences, they do share one vital through line: their unequivocal stance on the value of art. Alan Wake 2 follows, perhaps unsurprisingly, an author named Alan Wake, who has found himself trapped in another dimension called the Dark Place after the events of Alan Wake 1, a full 13 years ago. There's plenty to dig into as far as the game's setting, and I highly encourage you to do so, but for now it's enough to say that Alan is able to alter reality via his manuscripts. His primary goal in Alan Wake 2 is to escape the Dark Place with his writing. His attempts to do so result in a seemingly hopeless narrative, in which he repeats the same events time after time. Alan's gameplay segments consist of writing and rewriting bits of his manuscript to solve puzzles and get one step closer to escaping. As the player does so, however, enemies called Shadows will show up and try to stop Alan. These Shadows have voice lines that are taken from one of Alan's monologues.
I'm lost. I'm lost. I'm lost in the dark, drowning.
This strongly suggests that the Shadows are in fact past versions of Alan who are unable to escape the Dark Place. This can make the game seem even more hopeless than it already did. However, as the final, and first, line of the game reminds the player,
it's not a loop. It's a spiral.
No matter how many times Alan resets or fails, he's still making progress. This, in itself, is powerful commentary on art's ability to take us out of our own metaphorical dark places. Alan Wake 2, on its own, is a celebration of the power of art, and a recognition of the pain that the act of creation sometimes incurs. This thesis is taken a step further in the game's final DLC, The Lake House. The titular Lake House is a research facility dedicated to creating imitations of Alan's manuscripts, with the ultimate goal being a similar level of reality bending. To this end, the head researchers, Jules and Diana Marmont, have constructed a seemingly endless array of machines that churn out manuscript after manuscript, much like that set of infinite monkeys on typewriters trying to recreate Shakespeare. And, just like those theoretical monkeys, the Marmont's machines really just create gibberish for the most part. This is reminiscent of early AI image generation, which created funny little squiggles that occasionally had the faintest resemblance to the prompt you gave it. Of more concern, both in the Lake House and in real life, are those generated works that are difficult to distinguish from authentic art. In recent years, AI image generation has advanced rapidly, to such a degree that actual artists are deeply concerned about their careers. The Lake House DLC acknowledges this fear and combats it brilliantly. The Marmont's manuscripts simply do not work. They can create work that is functionally identical to Alan Wake's writing, but it is missing the human element of Alan himself, and therefore does not bend reality. In fact, the attempt to recreate Alan's work fails so spectacularly that it ends up corrupting its creators. Without humanity, the Marmont's art is worthless. By creating this storyline as an add-on to a game that is already thematically centered around art, Remedy Entertainment proudly uses the Lake House to take a stance against AI, and reinforce the necessity of humanity in art. But what do you do when it seems nobody sees your art? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a sound? Is there any point to creation without an audience? Hieronymus Bosch's Brutal Orchestra is a game about many things. On a literal level, it's a game about a gold skeleton named Novak, who is a painter in life, and his ghostly companion Bosch as they travel through a world that is heavily inspired by the work of artist Hieronymus Bosch, notable for his outlandish artwork such as The Garden of Earthly Delights. On a deeper level, it is a game about coping with life after death, finding yourself in a world gone mad, and accepting life as it is. Both final bosses, Heaven and Osman Sinox, represent this last one. The Steam achievements for these bosses say, respectively, Transcend Heaven and Forget Osman Sinox. For Novak, transcending Heaven means accepting that eternal happiness is an impossibility. In doing so, Novak is able to accept that life is, fundamentally, imperfect. Osman Sinox, on the other hand, is Novak's envisioned perfect self. It's who he would be if he got the fame and recognition he wanted as a painter. Forgetting Osman, then, means that Novak must accept that he is not that person, and never will be. For all the game's powerful commentary on life and its meaning, there is one scene in particular that sticks with me for its stance on what it means to create. The true ending. In it, Bosch and Novak accept that they are two halves of a whole, a man who is on his deathbed, seemingly by his own hand. As they watch their dying body, Novak says, "We have to try something. We have to try and paint it." Bosch replies pessimistically with, "I know, but no one will ever see it. And the rain will wash it all away." This is a struggle that I think a lot of artists have. Certainly, it is one I myself have had while making the first few videos on this channel. Why bother pouring effort into something that nobody will take the time to admire? Novak then says what is, in my opinion, the most important line in this entire game. A line that has stuck with me and become my mantra when it comes to the act of creation. Everyone who needs to see it is already here. This single line's importance cannot be overstated. Art should never be created solely for the sake of consumption. That's not art at all. It is, at best, vapid consumerism. This is what people who defend AI images fail to understand. True art requires passion and little else. It doesn't matter if nobody else ever sees what you create, as long as your creation has meaning to you. Taken on its own, Alan Wake 2 claims that art has the power to lift us out of the spirals we face in our everyday lives. The Lake House DLC expands on this by claiming that art created by machines is not art at all, only human hands can create it. Finally, Brutal Orchestra claims that art is worth making for its own sake. If we synthesize these beliefs, a clear picture of what art should be emerges. True art should be created because people enjoy making it. It should not be made with profit or exposure in mind, and it should not be made by machines. In their final moments, Bosch tells Novak to stop, saying, "It will never be perfect." Novak replies, "It never needed to be. It just needed to be real. Even if just for a moment." It doesn't matter how technically unassailable an AI-generated image, video, song, or game is. It isn't real in the same way as a labor of love like Alan Wake 2 or Brutal Orchestra, or anything dreamed up by any living person. It can't match the heart that is poured into each and every piece of art mankind has created. Art is one of the most beautiful aspects of life, and it is at risk of going extinct in favor of mass-produced and soulless garbage. Art has the ability to lift humanity out of the abyss, but humanity must lift art out of its own abyss first.